All right, all brothers remove their head coverings. All sisters pray with their heads covered. And we'll face the east towards Jerusalem. Elder Mikael, can you go ahead and open us up in prayer?
Our Father, most holy and true covenant Elohim, Abraham, Yishak, and Yaakov, we give you thanks and praise for the Yahweh Yeshua's holy mighty name, for the Yahweh, for allowing us, for the Yahweh, to mix with you, for the Yahweh. Heavenly Father, we ask for the Yahweh to continue to keep our hearts malleable and soft, for to receive your word, for the Yahweh, and have a heart, for the Yahweh, to do your word, for the Yahweh, and understand your word, for the Yahweh. So we repent, for the Yahweh, for the evil deeds that we do, for the Yahweh, that's displeasing, for the Yahweh, unto you. Heavenly Father, Yahweh, ask for the Yahweh, this word, for the Yahweh, go forth to the four corners of the earth, for the Yahweh, to touch those who wish to hear your holy, mighty word, for the Yahweh. Because for the Yahweh, they need your word, for the given unto them, for the Yahweh, by you, for the Yahweh, to change their world, for the Yahweh. They will understand your peace, for the Yahweh, the true peace, for the Yahweh, because you give total love, for the Yahweh, through your word. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks and praise, Father, for our brothers, for the Yahweh. Heavenly Father, we ask, Father, that you put your words in their mouth, Father, to speak your words, for the Yahweh. Give you thanks and praise in Yeshua's holy and mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Right, Shabbat Shalom. My name is Yedan Yasharah. I'm with my brother Jonathan Yasharah. Shabbat Shalom. And the title of today's Shabbat study is The Destruction of the Temple. Destruction of the Temple. And we know in 70 AD, the temple was destroyed, the second temple, and something like 1.5 million Yehudim were killed and sent into slavery, sent into Western Africa and into Mizraim, into Egypt, to work the salt in the mines. But there's a lot of focus on the destruction of the physical temple itself. There's a lot of discussion on, the rebuilding of the physical temple. But what we have to understand that when we see these things happen carnally, they're just an example of what had already happened spiritually. Before they even touched our temple, before we were sent into captivity, and when Yahshua said, I'm going to tear this temple down in 3 days and rebuild it in 3 days, there was already a destruction of the temple going on. The spiritual temple was already destroyed to the point where there was no more hedge of protection. We were outside of the garden. We were outside of that hedge. So once that happened, the physical, it's just a matter of time. The adversary is a roaring lion looking to whom he may devour. So the focus that we need to have is more making sure that we get our spiritual temple together, the real temple, the true temple, which is the house of Yah, which is he dwells in a dark place. He dwells within us. So we're going to open up in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, and we're going to see the spiritual temple. And anytime you see the physical happen in the earth, we have to always look at the spiritual. What are the spiritual implications 1 Corinthians chapter 3, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
Chapter 3.
1 Corinthians chapter 3. And Shabbat Shalom to the brothers and sisters abroad. Shabbat Shalom, Brother Larry, Sister Ashley, and Brother Kevin from Tanzania, all the way from Tanzania. I don't even know what time it is, but praise Yah. Shabbat Shalom. I would imagine that's got to be 6 to 8 hours later than our time.
Yeah, because it's Africa.
1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 1. And I, brethren, could not speak unto you as unto spiritual, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in Mashiach. I have fed you with milk and not with meat, for hitherto you were not able to bear it, neither yet now are you able. For you are yet carnal, for whereas there is among you envying and strife and divisions, are you not carnal and walk as men?
So he's saying could not speak unto you as unto the spiritual, but unto carnal, even as unto babes in the Mashiach. And when we speak this word, it's not a competition of trying to divulge how much deep knowledge you have. You have to speak according to the audience that you're speaking to. When you can look at somebody's actions and how they present themselves, how they carry themselves, you know, the words they speak, the questions they're asking, you have to speak to them on that level. You can't take a piece of meat and shove it down a baby's throat. When you're looking at a baby, you're like, this is a baby. This is obvious. So we have to keep that in mind when we're speaking to people and not try to get into these carnal debates of knowledge, especially when you're dealing with people that are not even born yet. They're not even in the word. They claim they're in the word, but they're not even in the word. Go ahead.
For are you not carnal? For whereas there is among you envying and strife and divisions, are you not carnal and walk as men? Verse 4. For while one says, I am of Paul, Saul, and another, I am of Apollos, are you not carnal?
So you have people claiming, well, I'm with this camp, and I'm with this camp, and I study under this person. I study. First of all, at the end of the day, those are just servants. They are not the building. And just because they have a building, that doesn't make that the official building. We in captivity. They're called camps for a reason, because it's temporary. When you camp somewhere, it's because you're preparing to move somewhere. You're just there camping. Nothing wrong with camps. Camps are very necessary. All of us that you're listening to today came out of camps. We all came from camps. We started with camps. They're very necessary. But when you are in a camp and you realize, wait a minute, the people I'm camping with are trying to do something that's against these commandments, you're forced with a decision. Two can't walk together unless they agreed. So you have to agree to the BS and say, well, I agree. I agree that there's no water baptism. So I'm going to walk with this camp. You can't sit there and be like, well, I think there's, I believe what the book says. The book says water baptism, but the camp says no water baptism. So I'm just going to walk with them. You can't. There's going to be a problem because you are consenting to that. Go ahead.
Verse 5. Who then is Saul and who is Apollos, but ministers by whom you believed, even as the master gave to every man? I have planted, Apollos watered, but Elohim gave the increase. So then, is he that plants anything? Neither he that waters, but Elohim that gives the increase. Now he that plants and he that waters are one, and every man shall receive his own reward according to his own labor. For we are laborers together with Yahweh. You are Yahweh's husbandry. You are Yahweh's building.
All right. So we are laborers together with Yahweh. We are Yahweh's husbandry. We are Yahweh's building. If he's an invisible Elohim, his building isn't going to be a physical building. He's invisible. What does he need a physical building to cover him for? We are him. We are what houses the spirit. What does a house do? It houses something important. It houses a family. It houses a people. It houses their head. It houses the goods, the precious goods. So we are his husbandry. We are his work. And we are his, which is a cultivated field. He cultivated us, and we are his building. So with all this focus is always on this physical, when you're not going to please a spiritual being with physical things. We have to always look at things from a spiritual perspective, but it's given to us in a carnal package so that we can understand the spirit. Go ahead.
Now he that plants and he that waters are one, and every man shall receive his own reward according to his labor. Verse 9, for we are laborers together with Yahweh. You are Yahweh's husbandry, you are Yahweh's building. According to the grace of Elohim, which is given unto me, as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation, and another builds thereon. But let every man take heed how he builds thereupon. For other foundation can no man lay than that is laid, which is Yahshua Mashiach. Now if any man build upon this foundation gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, stubble, every man's work shall be made manifest, for the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire, and the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is.
All right. So if you find yourself in this word and you are doing the works of the Most High, expect the fire. See, a lot of times when we introduce people to the word, we tell them, you know, hey, you're under these curses and come out from under these curses. Keep the commandments, you know, pick up your heritage and everything is going to be great. And then what happens is you have the parable of the sowers. You know, they plant the seed, it's not planted deeply rooted into the ground. As soon as the fire comes out, they gone because they weren't prepared for that. But when you come into this word, you're coming in to be a worker, a servant. You have a job, a purpose, not necessarily the same purpose as every other single person, but you have your own purpose, which means you have works to do. And your works is also going to depend on whether you're a man or you're a woman. Different works for different people, or where you're located, or how old you are. There's order. But when this happens, expect the fire to come. The fire is going to come and is going to try you to burn away the impurities. And when these things happen, you have to be prepared and not feel as if, oh, you know, I'm just a wicked person. That's why all these things are happening. It's there to burn away the wicked imperfections. Go ahead.
Verse 14. If any man's work abide which he has built thereupon, he shall receive a reward. If any man's work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss, but he himself shall be saved, yet so as by fire.
All right. So the key there is get you some works, because it's a win-win situation for you. Because if you are working and you don't do it quite right because you're not there yet, the Most High recognizes that, okay, I have all these employees and I have all these employees. These people just sitting here not doing nothing, but this guy over here, he's doing some work. He did it wrong, but he's doing some works. So what is that employee going to do? Fire everybody? No, he's going to say, okay, you here that did some works, it's wrong. We're going to mess this all up. This is wrong. Start over, but this is how you do it. Let me teach you, or let me get this other vice president to come over here and show you how to do it, so that you can learn how to do it. So you're saved by those works. So what happens if you have no works? You're not getting any reward, and you're not being saved by those works. You're just an employee that's not doing his job, and it's just a matter of time. Go ahead.
Verse 16. Know you not that you are the temple of Yahweh, and that the spirit of Elohim dwells in you? If any man defile the temple of Yahweh, him shall Elohim destroy. For the temple of Yahweh is holy, which temple you are. So we are the temple of Elohim because we hold the spirit of Elohim. So if we defile the outside, we defile that body, the body which holds that spirit, and to defile it means to not keep it holy, not keep it separated, not keep it kodesh. Go ahead, Brother Wesley.
Yeah, I have a question concerning works.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say constitutes works, and how would you know that you're doing works?
Okay. All right. Well, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the definition of works. What's the Strong's number for that one?
This is verse 14, 20, 41. G 2041.
2041. All right, so in the Greek sense, what they were saying is the Greek word is ergon, which is G 2041, ergon. And that's from ergo, primary but obsolete word to work, toil, as an effort or occupation, by implication an act, deed, doing, labor, work. So the Greek definition actually gave a pretty good definition of it. Your works is not only what you physically do, as far as, I work for an employer, and what do you do? Well, I assemble control boards. That's what I do. That's what I work. But it's also your deeds when you're at work. How do you carry yourself? How do you deal with your other employees? These are the things that will cause you not to elevate at your job. These are the things that will get you a raise. These are the things that will get you in trouble, get you fired. You can do a great job. I put this boards together perfect, but I put you alongside of 10 other people that got to take your board and now put it in a drive. And you're not working accordingly, or you're being rude, or you're not being on time, or you're not doing enough work, and it causes a problem with everybody else. So when it talks about works, you have the physical work that you do for the Most High. What do you do for the Most High? Before you go to work, you got to get an education, though, right? You can't just go work at a job. Somebody got to teach you how to do the work, so you get your education. But then once you find a job, whatever it is, something that's benefiting the Most High, that is your work. And then also your works is your deeds, your manner of life, your behavior, how you carry yourself. How do you deal with his family members? How do you represent him? Are you an ambassador? When people realize that you're an Israelite, are you an ambassador to the rest of the world? So all these things are your works. So when you talk to people about the word and you show people how a servant is supposed to be, you're an example of how a servant is supposed to be, a witness, as well as a teacher of babes, a student of the law, somebody that knows righteousness. And when you present that to people, that is your works. Did I answer that, brother? Okay.
Verse 18. Let no man deceive himself. If any man among you seems to be wise in this world, let him become a fool that he may be wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with Elohim. For it is written, he takes the wise in their own craftiness. And again, Yahweh knows the thoughts of the wise, that they are vain. Therefore let no man glory in men, for all things are yours, whether...
You have something, Elder?
Yeah, that's one of the ones that we need to work on and explain also, because people also have fallen into this trap too. When we talk about let no man glory in men. And that's the problem that a lot of people have a lot of times in camps, and especially in all these other additional churches and stuff like that. They put a man on a pedestal. Let's just say that man is speaking true word, good word, powerful word. Well, the man didn't ask you to put him on a pedestal. The man didn't say glory to me. If he has the type of mentality that he's humble, because he's only speaking the words coming out of Scripture. He's only speaking the words that Yahweh is allowing to learn, to give you an understanding of what Yahweh is trying to let us, his children, know. So those words that are deep impress upon people's hearts. So they wind up, getting bowled over by these words, and then looking at the man with awe. It's nothing wrong to give respect unto an elder, respect to a man that's giving you Yahweh's word. But don't put him on a pedestal and look at him as God, that his words is always true. Nothing else he does is wrong, because he's just a man. And this is what people do. They put people on pedestals, make them idols, and that takes glory away from Yahweh. And that's a horrible thing to do, because you put that man in trouble for one. And you also put yourself in trouble, because he's just a man. Right. People do that, in the world, I'm just talking about the world, with their pastors and reverends, whether man or woman. You understand? Because it's about a woman anyway. It's not supposed to be teaching a man his word, But still, we need to think about that. Yahweh is trying to tell right now, don't do these things. So I'm asking that people just look at ourselves and say, oh, we do these type of things and stop.
Right. Right. And pertaining to the woman teaching, she's not supposed to usurp authority over a man. She's not supposed to lead a congregation. But many of our first teachers were women, were our mothers. So we don't have a culture that oppresses our women, but we have an order that Yahweh sets apart, that the woman is not supposed to stand in front of the congregation and lead the congregation. That was the duty of the man, a priest. And then also you have a situation where you have maybe an elder, or you have maybe a wise teacher or a prodigy that's very smart in this word. We tend to elevate this person and put him on a pedestal and be like, whatever this person says is true. And that's not true. Anything that somebody teaches you, if they can't precept it in this word and show it to you, then it's something you take as a grain of salt. Doesn't necessarily mean it's not true. That just means that person or you need to do more study. And understanding how this word is given to us, it's given to us in pieces. It says it in Corinthians, in 2 Corinthians, we know in part, we prophesy in part. So when that which is full comes back, that which is incomplete will be made full. So when Yahshua comes, he's going to straighten a lot of these things out. And that's supposed to keep us humble, because we know we don't have it all. We know we don't know it all. And any teacher that stands up there acting like he knows it all, he's a fool. Like we said, any person that thinks he's wise, let him become a fool first, because he doesn't know everything. And when we put somebody in that position and just assume that whatever they say is gold and that they know everything, you endanger that person and you endanger your own study, because every last one of us that have taught something have been proven wrong. Now, the question is, once you've been proven wrong, what are you going to do? Are you going to humble yourself? Are you going to repent? Are you going to acknowledge you're wrong? Or are you going to try to keep that image up of you're never wrong, you're always right, you know, you've just been great from the beginning? It doesn't work that way. Go ahead, brother.
I'll go back to verse 20. And again, Yahweh knows the thoughts of the wise, that they are vain. Therefore, let no man glory in men, for all things are yours. Whether Saul or Apollos or Cephas, or the world or life or death or things present or things to come, all are yours.
And they used Cephas in there, which is still like a derivative of Kepha, which is Peter. So they accidentally used the Hebrew name and slipped in there. They forgot to change that one. Go ahead.
All things are yours, and you are Mashiach's, and the Mashiach is Yahweh's.
All right. Let's go back. We're going to go to Bereshit chapter 6, Genesis chapter 6, and we're going to start to see this destruction of the temple happening way before there was a physical temple made. Genesis chapter 6. We're going to go into the Sefer writings too today.
Genesis, Bereshit, chapter 6.
And we're just going to read verses 1 through 8 on this one.
Verse 1. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and the daughters were born unto them, that the sons of Elohim saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And Yahweh said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of Elohim came into the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown.
All right, so let's look at a few things here so we can get things in context. If we look at the Strongs on a couple of these words, we'll see some things. So, first of all, it talks about there were giants on the earth. So we go to verse 4. Let's look at the Hebrew word for giants. If we look at the Hebrew word for giants, it's H5303. Nephil, which is where the Nephilim come from. Nephil, which is Nephil. Nephil. And that's from H5303 5307, properly a feller, that is a bully or tyrant. So it doesn't say there was 500 feet men. If the Hebrew word that was used here was a bully or tyrant. So there were bullies or tyrants in the earth. Right? And now we go down here to verse 5. And it says, and Elohim saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of thoughts of his heart was on evil continually. Actually, where is it? Where would we just read about the daughters?
Verse 4.
Verse 2. That the sons of Elohim saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all of which they chose. So what we have from this Greek mind frame, those fairy tales, they're saying that angels flew down here with wings and started sleeping with women. Now, we know that's not true, because Yahshua already clarified that in the afterlife we'll be as the angels. We neither marry nor given in marriage. Marry would be to have intercourse with somebody, is to marry that person. Once you have a covenant, when you intercourse with that person, that seals the covenant. That's the blood covenant. And then given in marriage is a woman who's going to be penetrated. So there is no organs. They do not procreate. So they're not coming. They did not fly down here and sleep with men. These are spirits. Now, what these spirits did do is go into man and into the daughters of men. And the daughters have been used to lead the men astray since the beginning, since the garden. The adversary didn't go after Adam first. He went after the weaker vessel so that he could use it. The man is not expecting his woman to be the threat. There's all kind of reasons he would use that woman. So these spirits, these evil spirits, these angels left and came down into man and put their spirit into man. And that's what became adultery. That's what he calls us adulterous, when we allow another spirit that is not of holiness, not of righteousness, to enter his temple. That is adultery. So that's what happened here. These spirits came down, entered into our temple, which was already belonging to Yah, and that's what happened. And now that you have these new children that are being brought up with this evil spirit that wasn't of Yah, you start to have issues. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 5. And Yahweh saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented Yahweh that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart.
All right. So, oh no, we're stopping at verse 8, right? Go ahead.
And Yahweh said, I will destroy man whom I have created from off the face of the earth, both man and beast and creeping thing and fowls of the air, for it repents me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of Yahweh.
All right. So Noah found grace in the eyes of Yahweh. So grace was here before Yahshua HaMashiach. All right. Now we're going to go to Enoch, the book of Enoch, chapter 6. And if you do not have access to Enoch, you can go to IsraelitesGathering.com. And like I said, you can find access to any of the books that we'll read out of. We're going into the book of Enoch. the book of Enoch, chapter 6. And we're going to start that at verse 1.
In those days, when the children of man had multiplied, it happened that there were born unto them handsome and beautiful daughters. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw them and desired them. And they said to one another, Come, let us choose wives for ourselves from among the daughters of man, and beget us children. And Semyaz, their leader, said unto them, I fear that perhaps you will not consent that this deed should be done, and I alone will become responsible for this great sin. But they all responded to him, Let us all swear an oath and bind everyone among us by a curse, not to abandon this suggestion, but to do the deed. And they all swore together and bound one another by the curse. And they were altogether 200, and they descended into Ardos, which is the summit of Hermon. And they called the Mount Armon, for they swore and bound one another by a curse. And their names are as follows: Semyaz, the leader of Arakeb, Ramael, Tamel, Ramel, Danel, Ezekiel, Barakel, Azel, Aramos, Batarel, Ananel, Zakael, Sasomaspuel, Kestarel, Turel, Yamayol, and Arazal. These are the chief of tens of all the others with them. And they took wives unto themselves, and everyone respectively chose one woman for himself, and they began to go unto them. And they taught them magical medicine, incantations, the cutting of roots, and taught them about plants. And the women became pregnant and gave birth to great giants whose heights were 300 cubits. These giants consumed the produce of all the people until the people detested feeding them. So the giants turned against the people in order to eat them. And they began to sin against birds and wild beasts, reptiles, and fish. And their flesh was devoured the one by the other, and they drank blood. And then the earth brought an accusation against the oppressors. And Azazel taught the people the art of making swords and knives and shields and breastplates. And he showed to their chosen ones bracelets, decorations, the shadowing of the eye with antimony, ornamentation, the beautifying of the eyelids, all kinds of precious stones, and all coloring tinctures and alchemy. And there were many wicked ones, and they committed adultery and erred, and all their conduct became corrupt. Amasras taught incantation and the cutting of roots, and Armoros, the resolving of incantations, and Barakael, astrology, and Kokarel, the knowledge of the signs, and Tamel taught the seeing of the stars, and Asdarel taught the course of the moon, as well as the deception of man. And the people cried, and their voice reached unto heaven.
All right, so notice when they're talking about how these angels came down and started to deal with the people, the whole description of what they're doing here is teaching man and giving all these different knowledge that was not supposed to come before that at that time. And they're teaching men, and when you give people information that they're not supposed to have, and they already don't know how to walk into righteousness, it's going to cause all kind of issues. And when you're dealing with all these different types of arts and roots and all different stuff like that, we know certain things that you do affect your body, affect your different glands, and may cause you to grow a little taller or fatter or wider or skinnier or whatever the case may be. And that would definitely alter your size. Now, when it comes to this 300 cubits tall and all that type of stuff, you know, the problem with these writings is we don't have a lot of these writings to verify. So anytime I go into these type of things, I take things as a grain of salt. But when you look at what they're describing here, they're describing a different spirit entering into man, and man is now learning and doing things that he was never exposed to before. And that's too much power, and power corrupts absolutely. Absolute power corrupts. So man is given power that he should not have been given at an early age. And this caused the adultery. Yahweh did not want us to have this kind of information. He wanted us to have knowledge of holiness and righteousness. And the angels came down and gave that to man. And we've been warring and fighting ever since over this power, the power of this knowledge, instead of gaining this power of righteousness. Go ahead and read that next chapter.
Then Michael, Suraphel, and Gabriel observed carefully from the sky when they saw much blood being shed upon the earth, and all the oppression being wrought upon the earth. And they said to one another, the earth from her empty foundation has brought the cry of their voice unto the gates of heaven. And now, O Kodesh ones of heaven, the souls of people are putting their case before you, pleading, bring our judgment before the Most High. And they said to Yahweh of potentates, for he is Yahweh of masters, and the Almighty of gods, and the King of kings, and the seat of his splendor stands throughout all the generations of the world. Your name is Kodesh, and blessed and magnificent throughout the whole world. You have made everything, and with you is the authority for everything. Everything is naked and open before your sight, and you see everything, and there is nothing which can hide itself from you. You see what Azazel has done, how he has taught all forms of oppression upon the earth, and they revealed eternal secrets which are performed in heaven and which man learned. Moreover, Semyaz, to whom you have given power to rule over his companions, cooperating, they went in unto the daughters of the people of the earth, and they lay together with them, with those women, and defiled themselves, and revealed to them every kind of sin. For as the women, they gave birth to giants to the degree that the whole earth was filled with blood and oppression. And now, behold, O Kodesh one, and cry. Behold, the Kodesh one will cry, and whose have died will bring their suit up to the gate of heaven. Their groaning has ascended unto heaven, but they could not get out from before the face of the oppression that is being wrought on the earth. And you know everything, even before it came to existence, and you see this thing, but you do not tell us what is proper for us that we may do regarding it.
All right, so we're going to go to chapter 10, and we're going to see how Yahweh judges the whole earth. But before we do that, we had a sister ask a question or made a statement. She says that where are we getting this, that women are not supposed to stand and teach? She said Paul said these things in the Bible, but Yah did not say this. So we're going to go ahead and read. There's nothing wrong with a woman standing and teaching. She is not supposed to lead a congregation, point blank. Not a congregation of men and women. The women weren't even in the same place with the men when the teaching were going on. This is how Christianized we've become. That was never our culture. But we'll go ahead and read what Yah said. Let's go to Numbers chapter 27 real quick. All right, so if we go to Numbers by Midbar, chapter 27, and we'll start at verse 15, and we'll just read a few verses.
And Moshe spoke unto Yahweh, saying, let Yahweh, the Elohim of the spirits of all flesh, set a man over the congregation.
So this is Moshe's request unto Yahweh. Let Yahweh, the Elohim of the spirits of all flesh, and woman is definitely flesh, just like man, set a man over the congregation. Verse 17, which may go out before them, and which may go in before them, and which may lead them out, and which may bring them in, that the congregation of Yahweh be not as sheep which have no shepherd. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, take you Yahshua, the son of Nun, a man in whom is the Spirit, and lay your hand upon him. and set him before Eleazar the priest and before all the congregation, and give him a charge in their sight. So Yahweh is setting the standard, and he is setting the man, not just any man, but a righteous man who has the spirit, a man of Yasharah, to be the head of the congregation. Now, that is our culture. That is our law. Women do not lead our household. When we are in the house of Yah, it's the same thing. The woman is not leading the house. That is order. Just like the second born is not the firstborn. That is order. Yah gave that order. Now, does that mean that the woman just got to shut her mouth and not say nothing? That's when they were setting up these New Testament churches that were amongst Gentiles, where the women used to do whatever they wanted to. So to have some kind of order in the household where there wasn't order set up, like in a temple, they say, listen, women, because this is new to you, you grew up in this Greek culture, just be quiet. Let the men learn their own culture, then they'll go back and teach it to you, because you've been so far gone without your culture. So that's how that was set up, because we weren't even used to having women next to us while we were teaching and learning. They sat outside. They weren't even in. They were outside of the door. So that was the culture. So if a woman has a Jezebel spirit and wants to lead the man, she's going to want to do that. And she's going to want to put herself in that position. But any woman of Yah that reads this law and reads this book is going to want to follow things according to Yah's order, despite how she feels. Now, never in here does it say that a woman can't speak this word and correct somebody in the word. Deborah did it. Deborah, but all she did is reinforce what was there. She didn't stand up and they didn't say, well, we went into the temple and Deborah stood up and she was the leader of the No, she judged. Her husband was a prophet and she judged. So we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater by oppressing our women, which have tremendous amount of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to share, especially with her husband and her children. But at the same time, we don't want to supersede Yah's authority and say, no, well, we feel like because, equal rights, let's go ahead and put a woman to lead the congregation. She's not fit to do that. She wasn't made for that capacity. That's like saying, well, we're going to take the man now and we're going to let him start having babies. Because we're going to change the order of breastfeed. We're going to have him breastfeed. We're going to give him some hormones and let him start breastfeeding. Because he's got breasts. He can produce milk if you give him the right hormones.
And brother, I know during our time we've seen a lot of, women leading congregations and things of that nature. But if you look at what's happened, men have been removed out the home and things like that. Mm-hmm. And if you look in the scriptures, when you see that women have wrought some type of deliverance for the people, it was in the shame of the men because the men weren't standing up.
Exactly.
So when Deborah was telling Baruch, go up and do what you got to do, he's like, no, you have to come with me.
He was already told. She's like, did not Yahweh tell you this?
Exactly.
Why I got to come here and tell you this?
So and then the deliverance didn't come from her. He's like, in shame of him, it was like the deliverance is gonna come from a woman since you wouldn't go up and do what you were doing. But if the men are available, everyone can go back, and Yah is not shaming men by throwing women in front and offering the deliverance from a woman's hand instead of the man that's supposed to be protecting and overseeing the whole household, even the household of faith.
Right. And this is just the order of things. It's not for us to sit here and argue about the order. It's not for us to do that. It's for us to change our lives to fit his order, to be part of his house. So again, for the woman that made that comment, this is not me. I didn't make this up. This is in a book. If you don't like it, take that up with Yahweh. That ain't got nothing to me. I can't change it if I wanted to. It wouldn't do you no good. All right, let's read Book of Enoch, chapter 10, and we're going to see this judgment on the earth. These temples being destroyed here.
And then spoke the Most High, the great and Kodesh one, and he sent Azrael to the son of Lamech, saying, tell him in my name, hide yourself and reveal him the end of what is coming. For the end of the earth, for the earth and everything will be destroyed, and the deluge is about to come upon all the earth, and all that is in it will be destroyed. And now instruct him in order that he may flee, and his seed will be preserved for all generations. And secondly, Yahweh said to Raphael, bind Azazel hand and foot and throw him into the darkness. And he made a hole in the desert which was in Dudael, and cast him there. He threw on top of him rugged and sharp rocks, and he covered his face in order that he might not see light, and in order that he may be sent into the fire on the great day of judgment, and give life to the earth, which the angels have corrupted. And he will proclaim life for the earth, that he is giving life to her. And all the children of the people will not perish through all the secrets of the angels, which they had taught to their sons. And the whole earth has been corrupted by Azazel's teaching and of his own actions, and write upon him all sin. And to Gabriel Yahweh said, proceed against the bastard and the reprobates, and against the children of adultery, and destroy the children of adultery, and expel the children of the watchers from among the people, and send them against one another, so that they may be destroyed in the fight. For length of days have they not.
And these children of these watchers, these angels, are the children that were raised in that type of doctrine, that wicked doctrine, that unrighteousness. And that's all of us. All of us came from that kind of understanding where we were taught these Babylonian way of doing things. And this is why Yahshua said, no, you got to be regenerated. This got to destroy. You can't bring this type of thinking and this type of spirit into the kingdom. But we always want to take things from a carnal perspective. The same people that see it, that like I'm half angel or whatever the case may be. Same people that see that feel like their bloodline is going to walk them in the kingdom because they just spiritually, they straight Israel. It don't work that way. No. Yahweh is a spirit. And those that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. The truth is this word. The spirit is, what kind of spirit are you going to take into your temple? What spirit is that? A spirit of Yah? Or is that going to be the spirit of the world and the spirit of the angels that corrupted this world? The third of the angels that left their estate. Finish that up, brother.
Verse 10. They will beg you everything for their fathers on behalf of themselves, because they hope to have an eternal life. They hope that each one of them will live a period of 500 years. And to Mikael, Yahweh said, make known to Semyaza and to the others who are with him, who fornicated with the women, that they will die together with them in all their defilement. And when they and all their children have battled with each other, and when they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them for 70 generations underneath the rocks of the ground until the day of their judgment and of their consummation, until the eternal judgment is concluded. In those days they would lead them into the bottom of the fire, and in torment in the prison where they will be locked up forever. And at that time they will burn and die. Those who collaborated with them will be bound together with them from henceforth unto the end of all generations. And destroy all the souls of pleasure and the children of the watchers, for they have done injustice to man. Destroy the injustice from the face of the earth, and every iniquitous deed will end. And the plant of righteousness and truth will appear forever, and he will plant joy. And then all the righteous ones will escape and become the living ones until they multiply and become tens of hundreds. And all the days of their youth and the years of their retirement they will complete in peace. And in those days the whole earth will be worked in righteousness, all of hair planted with trees, and will find blessing. And they shall plant pleasant trees upon her vines, and he who plants a vine upon her will produce wine for plenitude. And every seed that is sown on her, one measure will yield 1,000 measures, and one measure of olives will yield 10 measures of pressed oil.
And that's the beginning of Deuteronomy 28. When we hear Deuteronomy 28, we think the curses, but it don't start out with the curses. It starts with this type of stuff about blessed will be the basket of your field, and blessed will be, the fruit of your womb. Go ahead.
And you cleanse the earth from all injustice, and from all defilement, and from all oppression, and from all sin, and from all iniquity which has been being done on the earth. Remove them from the earth. And all the children of the people will become righteous, and all nations shall worship and bless me, and they will all prostrate themselves to me.
So all nations, not one nation, because the new covenant is bringing Yehuda and Yasharah back together to become one nation again. So when it's talking about all nations, that means there has to be other nations there. So that whole doctrine about, if you ain't Israel, you dead. You ain't getting salvation. It don't add up. It don't even add up in the Sefer writings. They don't add up in Torah. It don't add up in the New Testament. It don't add up in anywhere except for book of racism. Go ahead.
And the earth shall be cleansed from all pollution and from all sin and from all plague and from all suffering, and it shall not happen again that I shall send these upon the earth from generation to generation forever.
All right. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 7. 2 Samuel chapter 7. So these temples, which was man, was being destroyed because it was being defiled. They were now entertaining spirits that were not the spirits of righteousness, that were not directly from Yahweh by his authority. So that's what caused an adultery. We were not supposed to be married to any other spirit other than the spirit of righteousness. Now these angels came down here and started to corrupt man. All of this began in the garden with the adversary, the devil himself, corrupting man and causing us to have death. So this destruction, before the earth was destroyed, the temple had to be destroyed. So before the physical aspect get destroyed, the temple had to be destroyed where it was defiled. It was no longer holy. The thoughts were continually on evil instead of continually being on righteousness.
2 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 1. And it came to pass when the king sat in his house and Yahweh had given him rest round about from all his enemies, that the king said unto Nathan the prophet, See now, I dwell in an house of cedar, but the ark of Elohim dwells within curtains. And Nathan said to the king, Go, do all that is in your heart, for Yahweh is with you. And it came to pass that night that the word of Yahweh came unto Nathan, saying, Go and tell my servant Dawid, Thus says Yahweh, Shall you build me a house for me to dwell in? Whereas I have not dwelt in any house since the time that I brought up the children of Yasharal out of Mitzrayim, even unto this day, but have walked in a tent and in a tabernacle. In all the places wherein I have walked with all the children of Yasharal, spoke I a word with any of the tribes of Yasharal, whom I commanded to feed my people Yasharal, saying, Why build you not me a house of cedar? Now therefore, so shall you say unto my servant Dawid, Thus says Yahweh of hosts, I took you from the sheepcote, from following the sheep, to be ruler over my people, over Yasharal.
All right. Verse 6, whereas I have not dwelt in any house since the time that I brought up the children of Yasharal out of Mizraim, even to this day, but have walked in a tent and in a tabernacle. So he's like, I don't need this. I dwell in the third heaven. What do I need a house for? Furthermore, I'm dwelling in a tent in tabernacles because I'm bringing you into your land. So out of all this stuff, I never asked for this. What does he need? What does somebody invisible need to have four walls and a roof? What does he need that for? Go ahead.
Verse 9. And I was with you wheresoever you went, and have cut off all your enemies out of your sight, and have made you a great name like unto the name of the great men that are in the earth. Moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Yasharal, and will plant them, that they may dwell in a place of their own, and move no more. Neither shall the children of wickedness afflict them any more, as before time. And as since the time that I commanded judges to be over my people Yasharal, and have caused you to rest from all your enemies, also Yahweh tells you that he will make you a house. And when your days be fulfilled, and you shall sleep with your fathers, I will set up your seed after you, which shall proceed out of your bowels, and I will establish his kingdom.
All right, and that's speaking of Yahshua HaMashiach. That's prophecy. But as you see here, this house of Yahweh, Yahweh didn't need that. The house is for us. We need that. We need shelter. Just like in any survivalist, you know, one of the first things that you look for is water. That's one thing that you look for. And then one of the other first things that you have to find is shelter, because you will freeze to death or be consumed by the elements of the earth way faster than you will die of thirst or die of hunger or any of that stuff. So the house was for us. That's what it was. He already had his house. He's already in the third heaven. And when he wants to dwell here on earth, he dwell in man, or he dwell in whatever host he wants to dwell in. He don't need a physical house, but he did that for us. So if the house that is for us is supposed to hold us, the house of the Spirit, and that house of the Spirit is already defiled, then he don't care about that building. That building don't mean nothing to him, because the house that he made specifically to carry his Spirit is already defiled. It's already being destroyed. Go ahead.
Verse 13. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men. But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before you. And your house and your kingdom shall be established forever before you. Your throne shall be established forever. According to all these words and according to all this vision, so did Nathan speak unto David. Then went King David in and sat before Yahweh, and he said, Who am I, O my sovereign Yahweh? And what is my house that you have brought me here to? And this was yet a small thing in your sight, O my sovereign Yahweh, but you have spoken also of your servant's house for a great while to come. And this is the manner of man, O my sovereign Yahweh. And this is the manner of man, O my sovereign Yahweh. And what can David say more unto you? For you, my sovereign Yahweh, know your servant. For your word's sake, and according to your own heart, have you done all these great things to make your servant know them. Wherefore you are great, O Yahweh Elohim, for there is none like you, neither is there any Elohim beside you, according to all that we have heard with our ears. And what one nation in the earth is like your people, even like Yasharal, whom Elohim went to redeem for a people unto himself, and to make him a name, and to do for you great things and terrible, and for your land, and before your people, which you redeemed to you from Mitzrayim, from the nations and their gods. For you have confirmed to yourself your people, Yasharal, to be a people unto you forever, and you, Yahweh, are become their Elohim. And now, O Yahweh Elohim, the word that you have spoken concerning your servant and concerning his house, establish it forever, and do as you have said. And let your name be magnified forever, saying, Yahweh of hosts is Elohim over Yasharal. And let the house of your servant David be established before you. For you, O Yahweh of hosts, Elohim of Yasharal, has revealed to your servant, saying, I will build you a house. Therefore your servant found in his heart to pray this prayer unto you. And now, O my sovereign Yahweh, you are that Elohim, and your words be true. And you have promised this goodness unto your servant. Therefore now let it please you to bless the house of your servant, that it may continue forever before you. For you, O my sovereign Yahweh, have spoken it. And with your blessing, let the house of your servant be blessed forever.
All right, so it was in the heart of David to build this house for Yahweh, but he had too much blood on his hands, so it couldn't be done by him. Let's go to Rishon Melachim chapter 8. 1 Kings chapter 8. So now we're going to see this physical house being built and being dedicated by his son, David's son, Shlomo, or Solomon. 1 Kings chapter 8.
Rishon Melokim, chapter 8, 1 Kings, chapter 8, and verse 1. Then Shlomo assembled the elders of Yasharal and all the heads of the tribes, and the chief of the fathers of the children of Yasharal, unto King Shlomo in Jerusalem, that they might bring up the ark of the covenant of Yahweh out of the city of David, which is Zion. And all the men of Yasharal assembled themselves unto the king Shlomo at the feast in the month Ethanim, which is the 7th month. And all the elders of Yasharal came, and the priests took up the ark. And they brought up the ark of Yahweh and the tabernacle of the congregation, and all the holy vessels that were in the tabernacle, even those did the priests and the Levites bring up. And King Shlomo and all the congregation of Yasharal that were assembled unto him were with him before the ark, sacrificing sheep and oxen that could not be told nor numbered for multitude. And the priest brought in the ark of the covenant of Yahweh unto his place, into the oracle of the house, to the most holy place, even under the wings of the cherubim.
So the Levites had to be the ones to move the ark of the covenant. Why? Because that's what Yah said. These are the people supposed to move it. You didn't see King David coming here and trying to move the ark himself, because this is Yah's order. There wasn't no, well, you know, we a tribe of Israel too. We Seminites. Why we can't move the ark? We should be able to touch it. And you can feel that all you want. All you want, you can feel that it's just unfair that Yah set this order up that only the Levites can move this ark. And then you go over there yourself and touch that ark and see what happens. That's what's going to happen to you when you try to touch Yah's word. It's symbolic. Yah's word. This is what he said. Once it goes out of his mouth, that's it. It ain't coming back. It ain't changing. It's not what Yahweh is saying. And that's what I saw a brother post that. Are you going by what Yahweh is saying, or are you going by what Yahweh said? If somebody's telling you what Yahweh is saying, that's an issue. Somebody needs to tell you what Yahweh said, because it's changed. That's it. I mean, it's not changed. Once he says it, that's it. It's said. It goes out. It ain't coming back. So we need to get rid of that opinion on what he said, what he established, which is anything that comes out of his mouth. That's commandment, period. Go ahead, Elder.
What you just said, but the same thing that the enemy had did Hasatan. He did the same thing to Eve.
Right.
Word was stolen to her by the husband, from Yah. Don't touch that, don't eat that thing, don't even touch it.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
Right.
And then the enemy came to her and put a question mark on her. Did he say you shall surely die? Cause confusion in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Made him think there was a way that, okay, maybe he didn't really mean that.
Right.
Change the meaning of God's law. And that's what got us in trouble. Right there.
Right.
That subtlety type lie.
Whenever you have somebody trying to say, well, what Yahweh is saying is this. No. What he said is on that paper. Read it. It's what he said. Get to the most authentic version of what you can get to in Hebrew or whatever, in the Greek. Break it down, read it, and this is what he said. But symbolically, when you change, when you touch something, you're changing it. This is why he said, set you bounds around the mount, because when I come down, anything that I ain't bring up here that touch that is going to die. And I'm going to have to kill it. And if I don't kill it, you're going to have to kill it. So we have to treat this word that way, that, hey, we're not touching any of this. We just learning and following it. We're not trying to change any of this stuff. That's like implying that Yahweh is imperfect. Who's more likely to be imperfect, Yah or us?
1 Kings chapter 8 and verse 7. For the cherubims spread forth their two wings over the place of the ark, and the cherubims covered the ark and the staves thereof above. And they drew out the staves that the ends of the staves were seen out in the holy place before the oracle, and they were not seen without, and there they are unto this day. There was nothing in the ark save the 2 tables of stone, which Moshe put there at Horeb, when Yahweh made a covenant with the children of Yasharal when they came out of Mitzrayim. And it came to pass, when the priests were come out of the holy place, that the cloud filled the house of Yahweh, so that the priests could not stand to minister because of the cloud, for the glory of Yahweh had filled the house of Yahweh. Then spoke Shlomo. Yahweh said that he would dwell in the thick darkness. I have surely built you a house to dwell in, a settled place for you to abide in forever. And the king turned his face about and blessed all the congregation of Yasharal, and all the congregation of Yasharal stood, and he blessed, and he said, Blessed be Yahweh, Elohim of Yasharal, which spoke with his mouth unto David my father, and has with his hand fulfilled it, saying, Since the day that I brought forth my people Yasharal out of Mitzrayim, I chose no city out of the tribes of Yasharal to build a house that my name might be therein, but I chose David to be over my people Yasharal. And it was in the heart of David my father to build a house for the name of Yahweh Elohim of Yasharal. And Yahweh said unto David my father, Whereas it was in your heart to build a house to my name, you did well that it was in your heart. Nevertheless, you shall not build the house, but your son that shall come forth out of your loins, he shall build the house unto my name. And Yahweh has performed his word that he spoke, and I am risen up in the room of David my father, and sit on the throne of Yasharal as Yahweh promised, and have built a house for the name of Yahweh Elohim of Yasharal. And I have set there a place for the ark, wherein is the covenant of Yahweh, which he made with our fathers when he brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim. And Shlomo stood before the altar of Yahweh in the presence of all the congregation of Yasharal, and spread forth his hands toward heaven. And he said, Yahweh Elohim of Yasharal, there is no Elohim like you, in heaven above or on earth beneath, who keeps covenant and mercy with your servants that walk before you with all their heart, who has kept with your servant David my father, that you promised him. You spoke also with your mouth, and have fulfilled it with your hand, as it is this day. Therefore now, Yahweh Elohim of Yasharal, keep with your servant David my father, that you promised him, saying, There shall not fail you a man in my sight to sit on the throne of Yasharal, so that your children take heed to their way, that they walk before me as you have walked before me. And now, O Elohim of Yasharal, let your word, I pray you, be verified, which you spoke unto your servant David my father. But will Elohim indeed dwell on the earth? Behold, the heaven and heaven of heavens cannot contain you. How much less this house that I have builded? Yet have you respect unto the prayer of your servant, and to his supplication, O Yahweh my Elohim, to hearken unto the cry of and to the prayer which your servant prays before you today, that your eyes may be open toward this house night and day, even toward the place of which you have said, My name shall be there, that you may hearken unto the prayer which your servant shall make toward this place.
All right, so this is another reason why we pray towards Jerusalem, because that's where the temple was established. This is where Yah said his eyes will be there forever, in Jerusalem. So we're not praying towards the sun, we're praying towards the temple. And in the next chapter that we read, we're going to prove that theory, that it's not praying towards the sun, it's praying towards the temple. Go ahead.
Verse 30. And hearken you to the supplication of your servant and of your people Yasharal, when they shall pray toward this place, and hear you in heaven, your dwelling place. And when you hear, forgive. If any man trespass against his neighbor, and an oath be laid upon him to cause him to swear, and the oath come before your altar in your house, then hear you in heaven, and do, and judge your servants, condemning the wicked to bring his way upon his head, and justifying the righteous to give him according to his righteousness. When your people Yasharal be smitten down before the enemy, because they have sinned against you, and shall turn again to you and confess your name and pray and make supplication unto you in this house, then hear you in heaven, and forgive the sin of your people Yasharal, and bring them again unto the land which you gave unto their fathers. When heaven is shut up, and there is no rain, because they have sinned against you, if they pray toward this place and confess your name, and turn from their sin when you afflict them. Then hear you in heaven and forgive the sin of your servants and of your people Yasharal, that you teach them the good way wherein they should walk, and give rain upon your land which you have given to your people for an inheritance.
So notice that when he's saying here, he says that when heaven is shut up and there's no rain because they have sinned against you, if they pray towards this place, that's one thing. Know where to pray. Pray towards Jerusalem. Confess your name, Yahweh, Elohim, the Allah of Abraham, Yashak, and Yaakov, and turn from their sin when you afflict them. So you can't just pray to Jesus or whatever, whoever you, or to God, and it just fix your problem. You have to turn away from the thing that's causing you to have the problem, that's causing you to have the affliction. That's very important. And a lot of times we're not taught that. We're not taught to think on that level when we're praying to the Most High, when we're praying for some kind of deliverance. Sometimes we need to pray for the answer. Well, why am I being afflicted? So that I can do what's in my power to invite you to change the situation that's going on in my life. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 37. If there be in the land famine, if there be pestilence, blasting, mildew, locust, or if there be caterpillar, if their enemy besiege them in the land of their cities, whatsoever plague, whatsoever sickness there be, what prayer and supplication soever be made by any man, or by all your people Yasharal, which shall know every man the plague of his own heart, and spread forth his hands toward this house, then hear you in heaven, your dwelling place, and forgive and do, and give to every man according to his ways, whose heart you know. For you, even you only, know the hearts of all the children of men. So
it says, what prayer and supplication soever be made by any man. So this is opening this to anybody who wants righteousness, because there were people that were dwelling amongst us that weren't Yasharal. Or by all your people Yasharal. And then it says, give to, in verse 39, do and give to every man according to his ways. So if your ways are ways of wickedness, it don't matter whether you Yasharal or not. If your ways are ways of righteousness, it don't matter if you Yasharal or not. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be judged according to what was given unto you. The nations were only given a little bit. We were given a lot. Go ahead.
And that goes in line with all what Brother Wesley was talking about works. You be repaid according to your works, according to your deeds.
Your ways. Exactly.
Verse 40. That they may fear you all the days that they live in the land which you gave unto our fathers. Moreover, concerning a stranger that is not of your people, Yasharal, but comes out of a far country for your name's sake.
Now, he can't get more explicit than that. Concerning a stranger, because people will try to tell you in those other camps that a stranger is somebody from Yasharal that just moved away. That's a stranger. No, it says a stranger that is not of your people Yasharal. Not of your people Yasharal. Not a stranger that's not of the southern tribes. No. A goyim, period. Go ahead.
That they may fear you all the days that they live in the land which you gave unto our fathers. Moreover, concerning a stranger that is not of your people Yasharal, but comes out of a far country for your name's sake, for they shall hear of your great name, and of your strong hand, and of your stretched out arm, when he shall come and pray towards this house.
How are you going to hear about Yahweh's great name and his strong hand and his stretched out arm if Yahweh don't have children that are here on this earth that are keeping these commandments and are being put through the fire and being delivered by Yah? But see, we don't want that. We just want all the blessings and this, that, and the other, and take everything and don't want to be in the fire and being removed from the fire by a situation that we can't even control, that obviously we had nothing to do with. That's how these nations will hear about that when they see, look at these people over here. Because there's a compare and contrast. Same people, same group of people, but they're not keeping the commandments. Look what happening to them. Other group of people, they keeping the commandments. They're in the same place, but they're being spared. So maybe Yahweh can help me with my problem in my country, in my nativity. Go ahead.
Verse 43. Hear you in heaven your dwelling place, and do according to all that the stranger calls to you for, that all the people of the earth may know your name to fear you, as do your people Yasharal, and that they may know that this house which I have builded is called by your name. If your people go out to battle against their enemy, wheresoever you shall send them, and pray unto Yahweh toward the city which you have chosen, and toward the house which I have built for your name.
Okay. And shall pray unto Yahweh. Don't say pray. It doesn't say pray unto God or pray unto Jesus. It says pray unto Yahweh toward the city which you have chosen, and toward the house that I have built for your name. Where's the city?
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. Go ahead.
Verse 45. Then hear you in Shamayim their prayer and their supplication, and maintain their cause. If they sin against you, for there is no man that sins not, and you be angry with them and deliver them to the enemy, so that they carry them away captives unto the land of the enemy, far or near.
So he understood in verse 46 that if they sin against you, for there's no man that sins not. So he understood back in Shlomo's day that there ain't no man that sins not. So if you couple that with our last class in Isaiah chapter 53, man is not being, there's guile found in us. So that Isaiah 53 can't be talking about any earthly man that be walking around here, because there's no man that sins not. This has to be talking about a heavenly man that came down from heaven. Go ahead.
Verse 47. Yet if they shall bethink themselves in the land where they were carried captives, and repent and make supplication unto you in the land of them that carried them captive, saying, we have sinned and have done perversely, we have committed wickedness, and so return unto you with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their enemies, which led them away captive, and pray unto you toward their land, which you gave unto their fathers, the city which you have chosen, and the house which I have built for your name. Then hear you their prayer and their supplication in Shamayim, your dwelling place, and maintain their cause. And forgive your people that have sinned against you, and all their transgressions wherein they have transgressed against you, and give them compassion before them who carried them captive, that they may have compassion on them.
And that's very important to us, because this is talking about us. When we be sent into captivity. But if we acknowledge that we have sinned, we have to say that. We have to say.
You know, his wife, you know, when the angels came down, you know, and allowed him to leave out to go to destruction.
That's a very good point. You can lead somebody as a head of a household and try to save their family as well, and bring them with you, and they may actually follow you. But at the end of the day, if they don't get that Babylon out their heart, or Sodom and Gomorrah out their heart, then they're going to miss it and feel sorry for it and envy that old lifestyle that they used to have. And it's just a matter of time. They hear a noise, they turn it around, they're going back that direction. And when that happens, ain't a covering in this world gonna cover that. You can't do nothing about that. She turned straight to a pillar of salt, and he had to keep going.
And if we want to add to that, brother, our brothers and sisters in the desert did the same thing. They had to talk mess. They had to go against the Most High and tell Moshe, you brought us out here to die? You know, because they were thinking about all the leeks that they ate, the food that they ate. Bro, you were slaves.
Right.
You was under hard rigor. They were beating heck out. They were used to do all kinds of stuff they wanted to do to you, but yet you missed that. You're going to disrespect the blessing of Yahweh to talk mess.
Right.
So, by the error of your mouth, Yahweh sealed that deal. Everybody 20 and older had to die, living in the desert with your life. And the ones younger, the ones who's being taught, doesn't have that, how you say, love of your misery. You know, went on to better things. You know, didn't have to die within that hand. So that's why we have to be careful what comes out of our mouths. Because what comes out of our mouths comes out of our mouths.
Right. Yahweh set us to be kings of the earth, but we want to be slaves. And that's the sad part about it. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 49. Then hear you their prayer and their supplication in Shamayim, your dwelling place, and maintain their cause. 1 Kings chapter 8 and verse 50. And forgive your people that have sinned against you and all their transgressions wherein they have transgressed against you, and give them compassion before them who carried them captive, that they may have compassion on them.
And that's how you better your stay in captivity. We're in captivity. We have to acknowledge that, because this is punishment. But we can have compassion by our captors in this captivity by walking in righteousness. Go ahead.
Verse 51. For they be your people and your inheritance, which you brought forth out of Mizraim from the midst of the furnace of iron, that your eyes may be open unto their supplication of your servant, and unto the supplication of your people Yasharal, to hearken unto them in all that they call for unto you. For you did separate them from among all people of the earth to be your inheritance, as you spoke by the hand of Moshe your servant, when you brought our fathers out of Mizraim, O my sovereign Yahweh. And it was so, when Shlomo had made an end of praying all this prayer and supplication unto Yahweh, he arose from before the altar of Yahweh, from kneeling on his knees with his hands spread up to heaven, and he stood and blessed all the congregation of Yasharal with a loud voice, saying, Blessed be Yahweh that has given rest unto his people at Yasharal, according to all that he promised. There has not failed one word of all his good promise, which he promised by the hand of Moshe his servant. Yahweh our Elohim be with us, as he was with our fathers. Let him not leave us, nor forsake us, that he may incline our hearts unto him, to walk in all his ways, and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, which he commanded our fathers. And let these my words, wherewith I have made supplication before Yahweh, be near unto Yahweh our Elohim day and night, that he maintain the cause of his servant and the cause of his people Yasharal at all times, as the matter shall require, that all the people of the earth may know that Yahweh is Elohim, and that there is none else. Let your heart therefore be perfect with Yahweh our Elohim, to walk in his statutes and to keep his commandments, as at this day.
All right, so we'll stop right there. So again, we want to remember it was a good explanation of why we pray towards the temple, why we pray towards Jerusalem. Now we're going to see a sharp contrast, where we're going to start seeing this temple that was being built being destroyed. And the temple is being destroyed. The spiritual temple is being destroyed. Because when the leadership and the elders start doing wickedness, it just funnels down, and it's just a matter of time before you see the physical building get destroyed. So let's go to Ezekiel chapter 8. Ezekiel chapter 8. Ezekiel chapter 8 and verse 1.
And it came to pass in the 6th year, and in the 6th month, in the 5th day of the month, as I sat in my house, and the elders of Yehuda sat before me, that the hand of my sovereign Yahweh fell there upon me. Lift up your eyes now the way toward the north. So I lifted up my eyes the way toward the north, and behold, northward at the gate of the altar, this image of jealousy in the entry.
Some kind of graven image. Go ahead.
He said furthermore unto me, Son of man, see you what they do? Even the great abominations that the house of Yasharal committed here, that I should go afar off from my sanctuary. But turn you yet again, and you shall see greater abominations. And he brought me to the door of the court, and when I looked, behold, a hole in the wall. Then he said unto me, Son of man, dig now in the wall. And when I had digged in the wall, behold, a door. And he said unto me, Go in, and behold the wicked abominations that they do here. So when I went in and saw, and behold, every form of creeping things, and abominable beasts, and all the idols of the house of Yasharal portrayed upon the wall round about.
So they went back to the same stuff they was doing in Kemet. All the dog-faced man and the sheep head and this, that, and the goat head and all these different weird, abominable creatures. You're seeing creeping things and all these images we were not supposed to have to begin with. Go ahead.
And there stood before me them 70 men of the ancients of the house of Yasharal. In the midst of them stood Yazaniah the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand, and a thick cloud of incense went up.
So now they're burning strange incense. They're burning strange incense because they're dealing with other gods and other imagery of the different nations that they were around. Go ahead.
Then said he unto me, Son of man, have you seen what the ancients of the house of Yasharal do in the dark, every man in the chambers of his imagery? For they say, Yahweh sees us not. Yahweh has forsaken the earth. He said also unto me, Turn you yet again, and you shall see greater abominations that they do.
So now what he's about to see is even greater abominations than what they just showed. Go ahead.
Then he brought me to the door of the gate of Yahweh's house, which was toward the north, and behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. Then said he unto me,
Isn't that the name of a month?
That's what they call the month, but that's Adonis.
So how are you going to have a month named after a pagan goddess? That didn't come from Yahweh, obviously.
No,
because Yahweh sanctified 1 month and he sanctified 1 day.
That's it.
When you sanctify something, you separate it.
That's right.
He gave Abib, the first month of the year, period.
Shabbat.
And everything else, 2nd month, 3rd month, 4th month, 5th month, 6th month, everything is where you are in relation to the set apart month. Same thing with the Sabbath day. You have Sabbath day, then 1 day after that, 1st day, 2 days after that, 2nd day, 3rd day after that, 3rd day, all the way till you get to 6 days afterward. Then you have your Shabbat. Go ahead.
Verse 16. And he, verse 15.
15.
Then said he unto me, Have you seen this, O son of man? Turn you yet again, and you shall see greater abominations than these. And he brought me into the inner court of Yahweh's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of Yahweh, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs toward the temple of Yahweh, and their faces toward the east.
Okay,
and they worshiped the sun.
So they were faced the east, right? So if all we have to do is pray towards the east, then that should be all right. But Yahweh is calling this even a greater abomination. Because they are in the temple. They are here in Jerusalem. But where are they praying? Towards the east. And why are they praying towards the east? Finish that last part of verse 16.
Toward the backs toward the temple of Yahweh, and their faces toward the east, and they worshiped the sun toward the east.
So they're sun worshiping. They're worshiping the sun god. Baal. That's where Sunday worship comes from. They're worshiping the sun, and they have their backs towards the temple. We're supposed to pray towards the temple. Now, if you're in Jerusalem, then you got whatever direction the temple is, that's where you got to pray. Because you can't pray towards the city you're already in the city. This is why when Daniel was in Babylon, he was eastward of the temple. So he had to pray westward because he's on the other side. So see what kind of great abomination it is to turn your back towards the temple and to pray towards the sun, making the sun a more important servant than what it is. Go ahead.
Then said he unto me, Have you seen this, O son of man? Is it a light thing to the house of Yehudah that they commit the abominations which they commit here? For they have filled the land with violence, and have returned to provoke me to anger, and lo, they put the branch to their nose. Therefore will I also deal in fury. My eye shall not spare, neither will I have pity. And though they cry in my ears with a loud voice, yet will I not hear them.
All right. Now, when you're talking about putting a branch to their nose, this was something that the pagans would do. They would carry little branches of very similar to the evergreen tree, and they would light the branches and do it. You still see people do them in those other countries. That's what that is. But what people will do is to turn around and take that and say, oh, that's smoking marijuana. That's what they try to apply. See, this is why you don't smoke marijuana. You put a branch to your nose. First of all, I don't know any person that smokes branches, for one. They take the branches out, seeds and stems and all that stuff. And then second of, you don't put that to your nose. Who smokes you snort cocaine through your nose? So I'm not advocating for smoking marijuana. I'm not advocating against it. I'm just putting things in perspective so that people are not taking things out of context and context and trying to apply something else to try to oppress somebody for something that's legal a few hundred miles away, but then illegal where black people stay. Did we finish that? All right. So let's go to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. So Yahweh called this even a greater abomination. So once Yahweh's seen all these abominations, it's just a matter of time. You think he's going to leave that building up because we call it by the name of Yah? He's going to destroy that building. And before that building was destroyed, the spiritual temples were already destroyed in the people. These people are destroyed. If you over here with your back towards the temple, praying towards the sun, with all kind of engraven images all over the wall, your temple been destroyed. You're a dead man walking. So you think Yahweh going to protect the building so that you can continue doing that? So people can say, great is Yahweh, that lets you worship whatever God you want to worship. Nah. That's Christianity. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. And I say Christianity not to be a knock against believers in Christ. No, a knock against that religion. Just like Judaism is a religion. We weren't given a religion. We were given righteous laws, statutes, and judgments.
2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 1. Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Master Yahshua Mashiach, and by our gathering together unto him, that you be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter, as from us, as that day of Mashiach is at hand. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there be a falling away first, and that the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition.
Okay, so the falling away first, so that the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. So let's see who this person is. Go ahead.
Verse 4, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called Elohim, or that is worshipped, so that he, as Elohim, sits in the temple of Elohim, showing himself that he is Elohim.
And that's what these angels and the adversary of the devil is doing. They oppose and exalt themselves above all that is called of Elohim and worshipped, so that Elohim sits in the temple of Elohim, so that he, as the mighty one, sits in the temple of Elohim, showing himself that he is Elohim. And this is the destruction of the temple. When we allowed that strange spirit to come in Yahweh's house, the nerve of you to come in Yahweh's temple and make yourself the God. And now we in turn have made ourselves into idols. We have made ourselves into God because we listening to that strange spirit by saying, I do what I want to do. I'm in control. I'm the mighty one. I don't have to listen to somebody mightier than me because I'm mighty. So we are taking of that same spirit of the adversary, the devil, and we have destroyed our spiritual temple. So this is what the adversary wants to do. He wants to destroy temples. He wants to go inside Yah's temples and put his spirit in there, causing that to be an idolatrous temple. And that is the destruction of your temple. Go ahead.
Verse 5. Remember you not that when I was with you I told you these things? And now you know what withholds that he might be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity does already work. Only he who now lets will let until he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the master shall consume with the spirit of his mouth and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness and unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause Elohim shall send them strong delusion, that they shall believe a lie, that they all might be judged who believe not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness.
So if you have pleasure in unrighteousness, you're going to purposely not want to believe the truth. And once you are purposely not wanting to believe the truth, he's just going to send you a strong delusion. That's what you want. You want to believe what you're doing is right. So guess what? There's a whole book that you can go into and cherry pick and justify your wicked deeds. Because at the end of the day, judgment is going to come. You're just going to get judged. It is what it is. But if that's how you choose to do your vessel, you want to make it a house for the adversary, the devil, instead of a house for Yah, Yah's fine with that. Because you're just falling into his prophecies. Already told us in Zechariah, 2/3 of us getting wiped out. So his word already went out. That ain't changing. Go ahead, Elder.
Romans chapter 1, and they can read from, or I can read from 21 down, but they state the same thing, you know, who changed, like in verse 25, who changed the truth of Elohim to a lie, and worshipped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is best forever. Amen. You know, because you get into serious conversation when you deal with Romans chapter 1 on this, you know, that's exactly what they're doing right here. They do not wish to worship Yahweh in their hearts or in their minds. So Yahweh will give you strong delusions, so you believe that lie. But the problem is with that is that people will not allow you to come out of that. Because if you think about back in the day, when he dealt harshly with the enemy of his people, when he was Pharaoh. Pharaoh, he hardened his heart. He wouldn't let him come out because he could make an example of him when he had done his people.
Right.
You know, and let the whole world see how powerful he was. You know, and how Yahweh destroyed him because he injured his people. You know, so we have to think about this. You know, Yahweh will continue to strive with man, so we have to follow his word. If not, we're going to be going to the line.
Right. Go ahead and finish that chapter, brother.
What was that, verse 11?
13.
Verse 13. But we are bound to give thanks always to Elohim for you, brethren, beloved of the Master, because Elohim has from the beginning chosen you to salvation through sanctification of the Spirit and belief of the truth, whereunto he called you by our good news to the obtaining of the glory of our Master, Yahshua Mashiach. Therefore, brethren, stand fast and hold the traditions which you have been taught, whether by word or by our epistle. Now our Master Yahshua Mashiach himself and Yahweh, even our Father, which has loved us and has given us everlasting consolation and good hope through grace, comfort your hearts and establish you in every good work and word and work.
All right. Let's go to Yohanan chapter 2. John chapter 2, and we're going to start at verse 13. So now we fast forward to the time of Yahshua. And Yahshua is addressing this idolatrous temple that they had set up. John chapter 2. And he lets people know that, look, this temple going to be destroyed. Because the temple is holding a bunch of idolatry, so it's not going to stand. So they're thinking like, oh, you know, you going to come in here, you threatening our idol? You going to knock down our graven image? Because that's all it was. It was a big graven image. You gonna knock down our graven image? And he's just he's prophesying, because he was, first of all, he was speaking of the temple of his body, but he's also talking about the physical temple, because once that spiritual temple is destroyed, that physical temple is not gonna stand up.
Yohanan chapter 2 and verse 1.
13. We're gonna start from verse 13 and read through 25.
And the Yehudim's Passover was at hand, and Yahshua went up to Jerusalem, and found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves, and the exchangers of money sitting. And when he had made a scourge of small cords, he drove them all out of the temple, and the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money, and overthrew the tables. and said unto them that sold doves, take these things hence, make not my father's house a house of merchandise.
So you didn't really see Yahshua lose his temper like that and start, judging and whipping people. But when you came up in the Father's house, disrespecting the house of Yah and causing his children to profane the Sabbath day, Yahshua wasn't having that. Because it ain't a matter of you doing something wrong, but you causing the people to do something wrong that wouldn't even have an opportunity to do this wrong, lest the leadership allowed that in there. Go ahead.
Verse 17, and his disciples remembered that it was written, the zeal of your house has eaten me up. Then answered the Yehudim and said unto him, what sign show you unto us, seeing that you do these things? Yahshua answered and said unto them, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. Then said the Yehudim, 46 years was this temple in building, and will you rear it up in 3 days? But he spoke of the temple of his body. When therefore he was risen from the dead, his disciples remembered that he had said this unto them, and they believed the scripture and the word which Yahshua had said. Now when he was in Jerusalem at the Passover and the feast day, many believed on his name when they saw the miracles which he did. But Yahshua did not commit himself to them, because he knew all men, and needed not that any should testify of man, for he knew what was in man.
All right, so let's go to the conclusion. Let's go to Revelation chapter 21. So he prophesies of the destruction of this temple. He was speaking of the temple of his body, because he was letting us know that this is where the temple is. The temple is the body that hosted the spirit of Yahshua, that hosts the spirit of Yah. So he was saying, look, this temple is going to be destroyed, because it's already been given to be destroyed because of the actions of the children of Yahshua. So it's done deal. That temple going to get destroyed, but I'm going to build it back up in 3 days. 3 days. So now we fast forward to New Jerusalem, and we're going to start seeing how this was the temple to begin with.
Revelation chapter 21 and verse 1. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea.
All right, so this is a new heaven and a new earth. So this is game time. This is the end game. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And I, Yohanan, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from Elohim out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of Elohim is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and Yahweh himself shall be with them and be their Elohim. And Elohim shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. And he that sat upon the throne said, behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, write, for these words are true and faithful. And he said unto me, it is done. I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give to him that is athirst of the fountain of the water of life freely. He that overcomes shall inherit all things, and I will be his Elohim, and he shall be my son. But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. And there came unto me one of the 7 angels, which had the 7 vials full of the 7 last plagues, and talked with me, saying, come here, I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from Elohim, having the glory of Elohim, and her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal, and had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and the names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Yasharal. And on the east 3 gates, and on the north 3 gates, and on the south 3 gates, and on the west 3 gates. And on the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and in them the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. And he that talked with me had a golden reed to measure the city, and the gates thereof, and the wall thereof. And the city lies foursquare, and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with the reed 12,000 furlongs. The length and the breadth and the height of it are equal. And he measured the wall thereof 144 cubits, according to the measure of a man, that is, of the angel. And the building of the wall of it was of jasper, and the city was pure gold, like unto clear glass. And the foundations of the wall of the city were garnished with all manner of precious stones. The first foundation was of jasper, the second sapphire, the third chalcedony, the fourth an emerald, the fifth sardonyx, the sixth sardius, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth topaz, the 10th chrysoprasus, the 11th a hyacinth, the 12th a amethyst. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Every several gate was of one pearl. And the street of the city was pure gold, as it were transparent glass. And I saw no temple therein, for Yahweh El Shaddai and the Lamb are the temple of it. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine it, for the glory of Elohim did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof.
All right, so there was no temple therein, for Yahweh Elohim Almighty and the Lamb are the temple of it. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of Yahweh did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. So this is all returning back to how things were in the beginning, where Yah was the temple. And we are the bride of the Lamb, so which means we become one with the Lamb. We become part of that temple. Go ahead.
And the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it, and the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it. And the gates of it shall not be shut at all by day, for there shall be no night there. And they shall bring the glory and honor of the nations into it. And there shall in no wise enter into it anything that defiles, neither whatsoever works abomination or makes a lie, but they which are written in the Lamb's book of life.
All right, so that's all we're going to do today. We want to keep in mind that the destruction of the temple happened, the physical temple in Jerusalem, but also the destruction of the spiritual temple of Yasharah, which is the children of Yasharah, happened. And we got destroyed, and we're still in a destroyed state, because we will not be whole until all the brothers are sealed that are to be part of this temple. All the sisters are sealed when we become together as one nation and we understand our role and start walking in righteousness. So if we want to rebuild the temple, that is the goal that we need to go after, is becoming one with the Most High, receiving this word, getting rid of these abominable things that cause the Most High to destroy these temples, and getting rid of those. Notice that every time they were talking about these temples that were going to get destroyed, he was showing this idolatry. These graven images and burning incense to strange gods, and turning your back towards the Spirit, turning your back towards the temple, turning your back towards Yahweh. All these things cause our temple to be destroyed. And when our temple is destroyed, even Yahweh is allowing it to be destroyed. If he's not destroying it himself, we are responsible for that. Because we allowed his temple to be destroyed because we didn't follow the order, to the point where he had to knock down the whole thing because you have destroyed. Just like you let somebody move into your house, they just destroy the house with bed bugs and this and holes in the wall and all kind of, blood all over the floor and bodily fluids, and just disgusting, to the point where you come back to that. I just got to destroy that whole house because I can't fix this. It's defiled. And even if I could clean the place, I wouldn't want to live here anymore. So I have to destroy the whole thing. And who is responsible? Because the guy came through and destroyed it, he responsible? No, the person that caused it to have to be demolished is responsible. And that's us. So that's all we're going to do today. Any last questions or comments before we close in prayer?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, Mama, what's your question? Can you give her the phone?
What was the last?
We're in 1 Kings
Chapter 8.
Okay. We stopped at verse
61. 61.
61.
Yeah, you read thing 61.
yes, we stopped at verse 61. Yep, verse 61. All right. Let's go ahead and close in prayer. All brothers remove the head coverings. All sisters pray with their heads covered. And we face the east towards Jerusalem. Abba Father, Yahweh, Elohim, the Olive of Abraham, Yashak, and Yaakov. Covenant Father, Elohim of Yahshua, we thank you, Yahweh, once again for your hedge of protection that you have given us throughout the 6 days of the week, Yahweh, and bringing us into this day of rest, your seventh day, your Shabbat, your sanctified day, your hallowed day, Yahweh. We thank you, Yahweh, for allowing us a means to come together on this day, Yahweh, and also putting a desire in our hearts, Yahweh, to put everything else aside, Yahweh, to come in Mikra, Yahweh, in Kodesh, Yahweh, on your day, Yahweh. So we're thankful, Yahweh, for we are not worthy. Yahweh, in this captivity, Yahweh, we fully acknowledge the sins of our forefathers, Yahweh, that destroyed that temple, Yahweh, and caused your holy people to be scattered, Yahweh. But we understand it's part of your plan, Yahweh. We also fully acknowledge the own destruction that we have done, Yahweh, in destroying your temple in our previous ways when we walked with a Gentile mind, Yahweh. So, Yahweh, we ask that you do not hold that against us, Yahweh, but continue in your mercy, Yahweh, and allow us to receive more of this light, Yahweh. Even though it causes us to be more responsible, Yahweh, we freely invite you to give us that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding so that we can show you, Yahweh, that we serve you and worship you and that there is no other Elohim. For we know that you need your righteous examples here on the earth, Yahweh, so that you can exalt them in your time, Yahweh, and have mercy on them in your time, Yahweh, so the rest of the nations, the rest of the world can look upon your children and see that, yes, that if they repent, they will be raised back up to their proper state. And any nation that decides, or any person of any nation that decides to grab a hold of your righteousness through your children, Yahweh, can also receive that mercy and that forgiveness, Yahweh. So we ask that you allow your servants, the few that you have chosen, Yahweh, we ask that you empower us to do that, Yahweh. Empower us to work together, Yahweh. Empower us to understand that we are a nation and not an individual, Yahweh. That if you remove bricks from a building, Yahweh, eventually it will fall. So, Yahweh, we thank you, Yahweh, for once again for this day. And we thank you for all the brothers and sisters that you have put in our lives to bring us to this point, Yahweh. Yeah, all these things we humbly come before you, and we thank and pray not only for us, but for all your children that have scattered across the four corners of the earth, Yahweh, that also gather to show you the sign of obedience. Through Yahshua HaMashiach we pray. Amen.
Amen.